Hey there, and welcome to our channel's brand new series, Eric Talks Games. I'm Eric, and let's talk about some games. Before we get started with our inaugural episode of Super Mario Sunshine, which, let's be honest, is there even a more fitting choice that we could have picked given this channel's name and icon? I just want to first mention just kind of what the series is all about, and also just give my heartfelt thanks to you for convincing me to come back. But starting with just an overview. Eric Talks Games, kind of going to be a bit of a hodgepodge of a retrospective, a review, an analysis, a breakdown of my general thoughts and opinions, more or less just an opportunity for us to revisit games that we love, and depending on which game we choose, maybe games also that we don't love as much. But hey, we're starting off with a good one. Super Mario Sunshine will be mostly positive, I think, in our conversation. We'll see where it goes. As you can see, I'm not physically playing right now. I'm not going to be like an actor and pretend to be playing the game like you see in some bad movies where characters are clearly not playing video games. But this is my footage. I did record this footage a couple days ago, so this is legitimately me playing. I didn't just steal somebody else's or use the trailer or use some AI-generated content. No. This is unscripted. I wanted to really emphasize the fact that this is unscripted. Just kind of off-the-cuff thoughts, opinions, and discussion, and I look forward to engaging with you in the comments on what your opinions are, your thoughts, and your anything you want to add to the conversation. That's really what inspired me to come back, though, was you. Your support was really something that motivated me to say, hey, I still have some good ideas out there, and I have not much time with a very busy household and a family now, but I do have the time to make that happen. So, again, I want to thank you. This is all possible because of you. Without your support, I definitely would not have been sitting here with you today. So, I'm all dressed up. I'm ready to go. Folks, let's dive into Super Mario Sunshine. Now, based on this channel's name and based on my screen name over the years, you may expect this video to be 15 minutes of me gushing about Super Mario Sunshine, and that's not entirely true. Like I said, I think this will be one of the more positive ones for sure. It will be mostly positive, but still, my opinions on this game have varied wildly over time. I've gone from having this be like one of my favorite Mario games to being like, this is such a flawed experience. Why did they make so many decisions that they made? So we're going to touch on all of those, which should be fun to talk about. But it's funny to think, though, back in the day, the way my username came about was the fact that it goes back to my AIM profile. Oh, yes, AOL Instant Messenger. I am definitely dating myself on that. Some of you probably weren't even born at that time that are watching this video, and if you weren't, you should definitely go back and look it up. But in any case, when I was picking my screen name, I was always a big fan of the Mario series, so I kind of wanted to go with Mario Bro 41 or something like that. 41, of course, I always wanted as part of my username. It's something that's very special and significant to me. I've talked about that at length. But, so rather than pick Mario Bro 41 or Mario Fan 41, that's kind of how usernames were back in the day. It wasn't like branding. It was like, I like Link 64, that was like the way screen names were. Fire Emblem Fan 5, I was like, maybe I'm in 7th grade now. What's like a little bit edgier than Mario Bro? Ooh, Shadow Mario. Oh man, now does that sound cool? At least my 7th grade self thought so. And it just so happened to be sort of the hot game at the time, in my mind anyway, when I was making that username. So it was more coincidence that we adopted the Shadow Mario brand, but still, I wouldn't change a thing about it. So let's actually get into the game, though. Super Mario Sunshine, released in 2002 for the Nintendo Gamecube. Like I said, no script. You can tell I'm not reading off of anything, right? My eyes aren't going like this across the screen. It's not some AI-generated script. We're doing this off the cuff, baby, just like we teach high school every single day. But anyway, so Super Mario Sunshine is I think overall a very solid Mario platformer, but for a while I actually did not hold it in the highest regard, especially when it was kind of sandwiched after the fact between Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Galaxy. My main criticisms with Super Mario Sunshine came from the fact that I thought number one, I think the game was like a little too different from other Mario games. I know that was sort of the whole point, was it was tropical and everything was unique about it, but at the same time I was like, as a kid, I was like, where's my Goombas? Where's my Koopa Troopas? Bowser doesn't even show up until the 11th hour. Spoilers for a almost 25-year-old game. But anyway, I thought it was just way too different. Like, I remember preferring Mario 64 because it felt like more of a traditional adoption of 3D for the Mario series at the time. And then when Galaxy came out, I feel like Super Mario Sunshine kind of became this awkward middle child where it was like, okay, Galaxy, very Mario-esque, very innovative. Super Mario 64 laid the groundwork, and Mario Sunshine was like the adolescent years of trying to figure out, what the series wants to be. But now I think the game is definitely looked back upon more fondly for its uniqueness. And I do kind of have to give the game credit. It was very bold of Nintendo to be like, we're going to ditch a lot of the Mario conventions. Like I said, the game doesn't even have Goombas. It does have some variations of classic Mario enemies like Bob-ombs and stuff. But it also, in going in such a new direction, introduced so many new characters that have become mainstays of the Mario series, like Petey Piranha, as you can see on screen. Even Shadow Mario featured in a couple of spin-offs, like Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. And I think that's something that makes the GameCube era, by the way, particularly unique, is the fact that a lot of the Mario sports games and spin-offs that came out around that time were really all centered around Super Mario Sunshine. They used a lot of the aesthetics and themes from that game and characters, and I feel like we haven't ever seen that since. Of course you had Mario Galaxy come out, but the Mario spin-off, train kind of wasn't like, oh my gosh, now we're going to create this new generation of Galaxy-centered spin-off. That just really didn't happen. Which is kind of a shame, because I hold the Mario Sports series on the GameCube in high regard, hence why I played those on my channel previously. So, in any case, it was a very unique game, Mario Sunshine was, that cultivated a very unique era of Mario history, in my opinion. Talking about things I do... something else that I do like is the world design. I think Nintendo did a great job with the world design. Isle Delfino seems like a interconnected... I don't want to say realistic, because clearly it's a cartoon world, but a place that could feasibly exist in the Mario universe. I always liked how you could see other levels from afar. When you're in Bianco Hills, for example, you could see Corona Mountain. When you're in Rico Harbor, you could see Pina Park, things like that. I always really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really nice bit of world building. And just the ambition to take something, like in Mario 64, that was just disparate levels with abstract platforms littered throughout them, and say, hey, instead of that, we're going to try to build this interconnected world that could feasibly exist in one location, introduce a lot of new races and characters. I think that was very ambitious, and I think overall a success. The visual style, the soundtrack of this game, both stellar. It would have been so easy for every level to be like beach themed, and I guess kind of is. Like every level is a tropical setting, and yet they still feel very distinct from each other, which I feel like is a big win for a game like this. So that's all good. The music, like I said, really iconic, and I think really good overall. World design, sound design, the characters. Mario doesn't have really much to do with character design. I feel like this game in particular is a little rough around the edges as far as its characters go. Namely, the fact that it starts out with, I don't even know how many minutes, several minutes of unskippable, horrible to listen to cutscenes with super budget voice acting. I think that, I don't want to give this game too much, I don't want to dunk on it too much because it was kind of like the first Mario game that had full voice acting, but like, sheesh. I think they learned their lesson to be like, hey, if we need voice acting, we got to kind of shell out a real budget. You can see that in more recent castings for some of their Nintendo Switch titles versus this game, which is bad. It's really bad. And the fact that you can't skip those cutscenes at the beginning of repeat playthroughs, it's almost like I don't even know if I want to start a new game of Mario Sunshine because I have to watch 9 minutes of cutscenes. It's like I just get up and do something else. But in any case, I think the industry and game developers have learned from that, thankfully. I'm also somewhat disappointed in the implementation of Shadow Mario. I actually wish it was kind of more like Dark Link from The Legend of Zelda, where it was more of a mystery or left more to the user to figure out what the lore behind it is. I know Dark Link is it's not like a super fleshed out thing, but I do feel like it's something that has more mystery to it, more nuance, more, just a little bit more of a I don't know, a mystery. I can't think of another word off the top of my head. A little bit more of a mystical quality to it, so to speak. You know, it's this mysterious doppelganger that we don't really know much about. So it leaves things open for a lot of theories and stuff. I kind of wish they went with that direction with Shadow Mario, rather than just making it Bowser Jr. in a mask. And Bowser Jr.'s motivation is absolutely ridiculous. The story makes very little sense. It's like they wanted to go on a vacation with Peach, who they thought was their mama, so they graffitied the island. A lot of it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense at all. And I think the character was very poorly implemented. Of course, Bowser Jr. has become a mainstay now, and you have to remember that like Bowser Jr. was brand new when this game came out. So props to making that character at least. But I just think the story in this game falls horribly flat. And the Shadow Mario mystery was never really expanded upon. Yes, it is very cool to see Bowser Jr. with the Shadow Mario paintbrush now. But, you know, it would have been cool, I think, if there was a bit more of a nuance behind that implementation, I suppose. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the levels in Super Mario Sunshine. So, if you might notice, I do keep glancing down for a little bit. I told you there's no script. What I'm allowing myself so my old self doesn't get off track and just start rambling about things is a little note card. So that's all I got. I got one little note card with a little bulleted list of like 6 things that I want to make sure I touch on. And the next one is the levels. So, as I already mentioned, I think the level design in this game is fantastic. To talk about level by level, Bianco Hills, great introductory level, super fun to kind of have this sandbox, especially the opening village area, to explore your movement options. It's fun to be able to go down that ramp at the very beginning. I think it sets a very exciting tone. Rico Harbor, which you see on screen right now, one of my favorite levels, if not my favorite level in the game. It's just this fantastic jungle gym of fun platforming, and the music is top tier for sure. After that, you have Gelato Beach. That music was actually stuck in my head all morning today, actually. And that is a super fun level as well. I love the Wiggler boss fight. The Dune Buds were really creative. The Sandbird is the Sandbird. But overall, it's the Watermelon Festival is the Watermelon Festival. But overall, I really like the environment. It is like your traditional beach level, which there's a surprising lack of, like, just straight up, you know, beach. Which is to the game's credit, as I already said. After that, you have Peanut Park, amusement park, really great idea for a level. I kind of don't like how it's broken into 2 distinct segments. You have the outside the theme park and the inside the theme park section. I don't know if that was done for technical reasons, but I kind of wish it was just one interconnected area. Let's see. Beyond that, what comes after that? Serena Beach, I believe, is next. I like the idea of the haunted hotel and the casino. I think it's super fun. I think the King Boo fight is kind of lame though, because especially since you had King Boo and Luigi's Mansion looking fantastic as a villain design, who by the way came before this game. Then you had like this cartoony implementation. It's a shame that we really never got the Luigi's Mansion implementation of King Boo in the spin-offs. I know I'm getting way off track, but you know, when King Boo appeared in Mario Kart Double Dash and Mario Superstar Baseball and other future spin-offs, it was a shame they didn't go with the Luigi's Mansion design. It was just like a big Boo with a crown, you know, which is kind of a shame. But regardless, I think that boss fight was a little bit of a misstep. But one mission in Serena Beach that I really look back on fondly now is the Hotel Delfino, exploring that. It really plays out like a puzzle mission, and I could see why my child self would not have liked it, because it's not a lot of platforming action. It's a lot of like little mini puzzle solving and some spatial navigation, but it's very unique in that way, and I think it stands out. I really do enjoy it. After that is Pianta Village. Oh no, Noki Bay. I think I might have almost forgotten about Noki Bay. I really love the music of Noki Bay. I love the like mysterious ruins along the cliffside that you explore. I feel like you could spend like a literal hour or more like combing through all of those to find secrets, which is really cool. And the storyline of the poison water, that's another thing this game does really well, is it actually has storylines that run through its levels. Unlike Mario 64, which kind of did that, but in a very, very, very limited scope. Like, the one I can think of is, like, Womp's Fortress, where once you defeat the Womp King, you can actually climb the fortress. But that is, like, the bare bones of world building. This game does a better job of having, you know, episode 1, like in Rico Harbor, we defeat Gooper Blooper, then the water's a little bit cleaned up for episode 2, and then episode 3 continues to tell more of a story, and the world keeps growing and changing. Serena Beach does that very well, as also with Phantom Manta at the start, and then you actually get access to the hotel, and then you can, you know, figure out the mystery of why it's haunted, and then you kind of solve that mystery. So really, really cool stuff. I like that progression as well. Pianta Village might B. I really like the music in it. I really like the atmosphere. It definitely feels a lot different from other levels. It might be my least favorite only because I find the platforming segment beneath the village is a little much. I don't know. Like, one little mistake can send you tumbling to your death. And I don't know. Some of the missions are kind of just arbitrary mini games. I think of like the Chain Chomp ones. Essentially, there's a couple of those. There's one where you have to save Piantas in a limited time. Like, it's a glorified minigame. I don't think it does a good job of world building, but still a nice level. I don't think the game has any poor levels. Except for one, which is Corona Mountain. Corona Mountain is the absolute worst finale in any mainline Mario game. And I can say that with confidence because of quite literally one thing. That darn boat. I have to really struggle not to use a harsher word there. But that boat that you have to guide through the water, just absolutely, what were they thinking? That is a what were they thinking moment. It grinds the pace of a level to a halt. It's unnecessarily frustrating, and it's not even a skill that you've had to do very often in the game. It's like maybe that's come up once or twice, and like now all of a sudden it's in the final level, and it's standing between you and finishing the game. Not to mention, there's all those blue coins around the volcano that you have to guide the boat to collect. Thanks, but no thanks. Actually, a great segue into the final boss is fine too. Actually, a great segue into blue coins though. Blue coins is where this game I think gets crapped on a lot, and I have to say, I think the blue coins are almost great. They're not though. They are actually kind of terrible, but I think they are almost great. And I think Super Mario Odyssey is then where you saw that trend in the right direction, because purple coins are essentially what the blue coins in Sunshine were trying to do. It was nice that they weren't tied to a main collectible. I think that's what helped them stand out, where you could just buy costumes. You could get moons technically with them, but it was really for costumes. But in this game, the blue coins, I think on the surface level, great idea. They encourage exploration. They encourage you to go out of your way to try to find hidden secrets, go off the beaten path a little bit and poke around mysterious areas. Big fan of that. The issue with the blue coins, two issues. Number one, you cannot track them. You cannot track which ones you have and which ones you don't, which is a real shame. I think, if I remember correctly, it shows you how many you've gotten in each level, but not which ones. And I think that's a real shame. And the reason I think a tracker is necessary, if they were going with this implementation, is because some blue coins, actually many of them, are episode specific. So there are blue coins that you can only get in specific episodes of specific levels, which I think is where, you lost me with the blue coins. I think if you had it so you could collect I think every level has 30 if I remember correctly, all 30 blue coins in any level at any time. Maybe sometimes you don't have access to later parts of the level yet, but regardless, that would have made blue coins so much better. Instead, it's like you literally have to comb episode by episode to see where the blue coins are and try to find the ball. And not to mention, another thing I'll add to the fact that blue coins kind of stink is some of their obscurity is a little much. I understand trying to look for nooks and crannies, but when it's like you have to spray this random torch to get a blue coin that doesn't look different at all from all the other torches in the level, that's where you go too far. That's where it goes too far, game. You've gone too far. But anyway, I think I've said enough about blue coins. We all know that they are flawed, but I think the idea was there. The idea was there. The last thing I really want to comment on here is the physics. I think the game does a really, I really like the jumping mechanics of this game. One of the reasons my opinion on it was kind of soured compared to Mario 64 at the time, we're talking early 2000s going way back, was the fact that I always felt like Mario's jumping was de-emphasized. Like Flood's hover just made everything a little too easy in the sense that you could just, in Mario 64 you had to use a bit of a more robust moveset to accomplish what you want to have accomplished. In this game, it seems like most of the jumps you do are just jump plus hover, which, yeah, you can bust out the fancy spin jump, and it feels really good to do so. You could do the side, sideways somersault and the, little sprinkler move, which is kind of cool. But for the most part, it's like jump and hover. And I think they probably did that for, to make the game a little bit more accessible, and the fact that, it does feel good to do like a jump you kind of saw on screen where it's like, oh, that skipped over a big portion of level, and you kind of feel smart as the player for doing that. But at the same time, I think the hover just makes the game a little too, I don't know, easy. It makes it so the emphasis is on Mario's water pack and not on Mario's ability himself, if that kind of makes sense. And I always thought that about this game. I think they could have done themselves a favor by shortening the hover's duration by like a second or two. Granted, not a game designer at Nintendo. What do I know? I'm just some old guy rambling online to, to the world. But that would have been my opinion. I do like the different nozzles, though. Kind of simulates different power-ups, which is very cool. But it's like I feel the star of the show. Maybe this is a good way of putting it. I feel the star of the show is Flood and not Mario. And that's a real shame. That's a real shame, in my opinion. But talking about the physics quickly, one thing I really dislike about this game, it's definitely a product of its physics engine, is the fact that you can bonk into some small protrusion of geometry, and it just sends you into this horrible tumbling free fall through a level where you lose a ton of progress, probably fall off the stage and die. And it's just, that feels really bad. I wish that was definitely ironed out a bit more, prior to the game featuring it in that way. It's the most frustrating thing to be like, I'm schmoving, I'm making progress, I'm doing great jumps, and then it's like, oh, I bonked into one little corner of a platform, and it's like, boom, 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 all the way down. You can't do anything about it to save yourself. It just really sucks. But anyway, that's more or less my thoughts on Super Mario Sunshine. Great game, I have to say. The physics engine doesn't do any favors. The story doesn't do any favors. Some of the Shine Sprite missions, you don't need me to talk about the lily pad, navigating that through the poison water. Do you really need me to talk about the fact that you have to get Yoshi over on the boat in Isle Delfino? It takes 5 minutes. Those are all things that the internet has parroted many times. This is more I wanted to share my personal thoughts and opinions on the game. But I do think over time, kind of like Wind Waker, actually, Super Mario Sunshine has very much, garnered more of a cult following and has been more of a welcoming entry and has been viewed upon much more fondly in the Mario series over time. I feel like when Wind Waker came out, and maybe we'll do an episode on Wind Waker one day, the game was very much criticized for its cartoony art style. It's part of, I think that and this game is part of what gave Nintendo its image problem of being like a console for kids. But now we kind of look back at Wind Waker and we kind of say, like, oh, it was so unique. It tried something so different. The art style is endearing. It's timeless. So opinions change over time. It's just funny how that works out. And at the time, again, maybe we'll do an episode on this. Twilight Princess was like, wow, the game's so realistic. It's like what I always pictured my mature version of The Legend of Zelda would be. And nowadays it's like, it looks kind of ugly and muted and not great. So funny how things just shift over time. But anyway, as far as my opinions on this game, like I said, I've gone from loving it as a kid to thinking it was sort of the awkward middle child when Galaxy came out, to kind of liking it again, to now having played it just a couple days ago and now watching back this footage with you. It is very good. I like it a lot. I love its uniqueness. Yeah, it's flawed. Yeah, there's some definite quirks in it. Don't take any stock seriously in the story. It does introduce Mario changing into new outfits, though, with the little sunglasses and Shine Sprite shirt. If I had the Shine Sprite shirt, I would definitely have worn it. But, overall, it's a fantastic game. You should definitely play it. Be prepared. It's a early 2000s platformer. So there's some spots that are a little rough around the edges. There's some balancing issues with some of the missions. There's the fact that you have to clear episode 7 in every level to get to the final level, but the game really never even tells you that. You just kind of have to figure it out. There's a lot of little things. I wish you could kind of go out of order sometimes to get some of the Shine Sprites. I think that would have been a really cool thing. But overall, when you compare this to Mario 64, put the two side by side, this is a monumental leap forward, and I think that is, deserves credit, deserves a lot of credit. And I would highly recommend this game if you haven't had a chance to play it yet. So that was our first episode of Eric Talks Games. We have a little bit of a vote that you could take to figure out what game we do next time. You could see in the bottom corner of the screen here. We're voting between Donkey Kong Country, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Dark Souls, and Wii Sports. All games that I really want to talk about with you. I will do one of those 4 games next time, but if you have other games too that you want to see in this series, please do not be shy to mention them. Please mention them in the comments. You can vote in the comments. I want to hear and engage with your thoughts as well, because ultimately this is what a series like this will allow us to do, is have the opportunity to talk about stuff that we love. And like I said, maybe in the future with some games that we don't really love. But in any case, this has been Eric. Thank you so much for listening to our first episode of Eric Talks Games, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.